I never thought I'd be the woman scrolling through her husband's emails at 2 a.m., part hammering in my chest like a jackhammer. But here I was, living a cliché copyright I'd mocked in countless movies. Our marriage, once the envy of my Instagram followers, now felt like a meticulously curated lie. It started with the late nights. Big project at the office, he'd say, his words a rehearsed script I'd learned to dread. I wanted to believe him, truly I did. But the perfume lingering on his suits wasn't mine, and the hastily deleted texts raised questions he dismissed with a wave of his hand. "You're imagining things, babe," he'd chuckle, turning away to hide the guilt I was sure flickered in his eyes. Then came the night I stumbled upon the truth, a forgotten email left open on our shared laptop, words that felt like a punch to the gut. "Can't wait for our weekend getaway. Love, Emily." Emily, the name burned in my brain, a neon sign pointing to my unraveling life. I confronted him, the email printed out and clutched in my shaking hands. "Who is Emily?" I demanded, my voice steadier than I felt. He glanced at the paper, then at me, his face an emotionless mask. "You're being paranoid," he said, the denial swift and cold. "It's just a work thing. You're reading too much into it." But I knew better. The lies wrapped around us like chains, suffocating the trust we'd built over years. His denial was the final blow, the evidence of betrayal too glaring to ignore. I was alone, my pain invisible to the man I'd shared my life with. Revenge became my solace, a dark whisper urging me on. Direct confrontation? No, too easy, too clean. I wanted him to feel the slow burn of loss, to watch his empire crumble piece by piece. It was petty, perhaps, but the thought of undermining his business, his pride, gave me a perverse sense of satisfaction. I started small, leaking company secrets to competitors through an anonymous email account. Each act of sabotage was a balm to my wounded heart, a way to reclaim some semblance of control. I watched from the shadows as he scrambled to contain the fallout, unaware that his downfall was orchestrated by the woman he'd vowed to cherish. As I plotted my next move, I couldn't help but marvel at the irony. The perfect wife, the perfect life, all a facade. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, one that would sweep away the lies and reveal the truth in its wake. This chapter of my life was far from over. The game had just begun, and I was playing for keeps. It started with a whisper in the dark, the kind that snakes into your brain and festers. My life, once a parade of luxury and smiling selfies, had turned into a battleground. And me? I became the unseen warrior, wielding secrets instead of swords. The first act of rebellion was subtle, a nudge rather than a shove. I leaked bits of sensitive data to a competitor, masked behind layers of anonymity. Watching the minor scandal erupt was like the first taste of revenge, bittersweet and addictive. It was just a dip in the company's stock, but oh, how it made my heart race. But the real game changer came when I dug a little deeper into her, the mistress. She wasn't just any fling, she was the daughter of his fiercest business rival. The irony was too delicious, the betrayal too deep. It wasn't just my bed he'd shared, he'd conspired with the enemy. Fueled by this new revelation, I sought an ally, someone as scorned by him as I was. It didn't take long to find a disgruntled former employee, eager to spill every secret for a slice of vengeance. Together, we orchestrated a masterful strike, a security breach that bled his company dry. Watching from the shadows, I reveled in the chaos, an unseen puppeteer pulling at the strings. But he wasn't clueless. The suspicion in his eyes grew, a storm brewing in the silence of our home. "Something's amiss," he'd mutter, poring over reports and emails. Yet, he never suspected me, his perfect wife, now the architect of his downfall. Then came the confrontation I hadn't anticipated. She, the mistress, stepped into the light, all venom and vanity. "You won't do a thing," she sneered, believing I was too wrapped up in my facade to fight back. Oh, how wrong she was. But I held my tongue, letting her believe she had the upper hand. Amidst this tangled web of deceit and revenge, an unexpected player re-entered the stage, someone from a past life I thought was long buried. He appeared out of nowhere, a ghost from my past with a gift, information. He knew the intimate details of their betrayal, the kind that could turn the tide in my favor. This man, once thought lost to me, became the key to my next move. Armed with his insights, I prepared to strike again, this time aiming for a blow that would leave no room for recovery. He whispered of hidden accounts, of plans made in the dark. With each word, the path became clearer, and my resolve hardened. As I moved through this dance of shadows, plotting my next move, I couldn't help but marvel at the transformation. I was no longer the woman who flaunted her perfect life on social media. I had become the storm, brewing beneath the calm surface, ready to unleash chaos on the world that had wronged me. Yet, in the quiet moments before dawn, doubts would creep in. Was I becoming the monster I sought to destroy? No, I'd shake off the thought. This was justice, served cold and calculated. As the sun rose, casting light on the facade of our lives, I knew the endgame was near. The board was set, the pieces in motion. And I, the queen in this game of chess, would deliver the checkmate, no matter the cost. In the game of chess that had become my life, I never imagined being outmaneuvered in such a stunning fashion. It all started when the ghost from my past, a figure I'd once loved and lost, re-emerged with a revelation that turned my blood to ice. He whispered of a coup, a silent takeover orchestrated through sheets and whispers, positioning me as the unwitting queen in a game rigged from the start. With this newfound knowledge, I crafted my most daring move yet, a scheme designed to shatter my husband's pristine reputation. It was a calculated play, leaking scandalous details of his company's inner workings to the press. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic, a public relations nightmare that painted him not as the business savant he claimed to be but as a conniving snake, slithering through the corridors of power. But betrayal, it seems, is a double-edged sword. The ally I had trusted, the disgruntled former employee who had fed me secrets and whispered shadows, turned against me. For a handful of silver, he sold me out, laying bare my machinations to the one person I had sought to destroy. My husband, now aware of my betrayal, launched a counteroffensive that was as brutal as it was swift. Legal papers arrived like arrows, each one piercing the armor I had built around myself. He aimed to strip me of everything to euro my dignity, my assets, even the very roof over my head. In desperation, I escalated the conflict, unveiling his affair to the world in a last-ditch effort to sway the court of public opinion in my favor. I thought it would be my checkmate. The showdown came unexpectedly, in the cold, sterile environment of a lawyer's office. There, my husband sat across from me, an unreadable mask concealing his thoughts. With a calmness that chilled my soul, he revealed his hand. He had known about my actions all along, each move I made anticipated and countered in the shadows. He had set traps, laying out a breadcrumb trail of false information for me to follow, leading me into a snare of my own making. As he spoke, the final blow was delivered, a document signed and sealed, granting him full ownership of the company. My efforts to secure a financial lifeline through our divorce were obliterated in an instant. I had played into his hands, and now, I was left with nothing. The room spun around me as the magnitude of my failure sank in. The chessboard was clear, and I had lost. My gambit, my desperate play for revenge, had been anticipated and outmatched at every turn. The man I had vowed to spend my life with had become my greatest adversary, outplaying me in a game I thought I controlled. In the silence that followed, I realized the cost of my vengeance. I had sought to destroy him, to make him feel the pain of betrayal as acutely as I had. Instead, I found myself cornered, defeated not by his actions but by my own. The realization was a bitter pill, a lesson learned in the harshest of ways. As I left the lawyer's office, the world outside seemed different, colder, less forgiving. The battle was over, and though I walked away with my freedom, it was a hollow victory. I had lost more than assets and a marriage. I had lost a part of myself, consumed by hatred and revenge. The climax of my story wasn't one of triumph but of profound loss. As I stepped into the uncertain future, I carried with me the weight of my choices, a reminder of the cost of vengeance and the price of a heart turned cold. I never thought I'd see the day when my world, once adorned with love and luxury, would crumble into dust. But here I was, standing amidst the ruins of a life I had meticulously built, only to tear down with my own hands. The final chapters of my tale unfolded with the swiftness of a storm, leaving me battered and alone in its wake. The mistress, once a shadow in our marriage, faced the harsh light of exposure. With a few well-placed words and undeniable evidence, I watched her fall from grace, her social stature and professional life dissolving like sugar in rain. It was a victory, hollow and bitter, for in her downfall, I saw not the face of my enemy but a mirror reflecting my own shattered morals. But the true final blow was yet to come. My husband, ever the strategist, slipped through my fingers like smoke, leaving the country with his fortune intact. I was left grappling with the aftermath, a public spectacle of humiliation and legal battles that promised to strip me of the little dignity I had left. In that darkest hour, the ghost from my past reappeared, offering me a lifeline, a chance at redemption. His words were tempting, hinting at a game far greater than the petty vendettas that had consumed me. But as I stood on the precipice, peering into the abyss of my own making, a clarity, sharp and unforgiving, pierced my veil of vengeance. The cycle of revenge, a relentless maelstrom, had brought me nothing but ruin. In rejecting his offer, I chose to face the consequences of my actions alone, a decision that carried the weight of my regrets. The aftermath was a relentless storm. Legal battles loomed like specters, their shadows casting long and dark over my future. Society, once my playground, turned its back on me, their whispers a constant reminder of the fall from grace I had endured. And as I navigated this new reality, a solitary figure amidst the chaos, I couldn't help but reflect on the path that had led me here. There was no introspection, no solace in understanding, only the bitter taste of my choices, lingering on my tongue. Amidst the ruins, the rival, the father of the mistress, emerged victorious. His empire expanded, fed by the turmoil I had unwittingly helped sow. It was a cruel irony, the architect of my downfall benefiting from the ashes of my war. As the dust settled, I found myself standing at the edge of a precipice, peering into the void of a future uncertain and scarred. The quest for revenge had stripped me of everything, my dignity, my love, and my self-respect. Left alone to bear the weight of my actions, I realized the cost of my vengeance was far greater than I could have ever imagined. In this new world, barren and cold, I learned the hardest lesson of all. The price of revenge is paid not in the downfall of our enemies but in the loss of ourselves. And as I faced the long road ahead, a path marked by legal battles and societal disdain, I carried with me the weight of my choices, a constant reminder of the ruin wrought by my own hands. The story of my downfall is a cautionary tale, a whisper in the wind to those who tread the path of vengeance. For in the end, the greatest battles are fought not against others but within ourselves, a war where the only true defeat is the loss of who we are. The moment I saw my once adored social media profiles turn into battlegrounds of vilification, I knew the world I had built was crumbling. Each notification was a jab, a reminder of how quickly adoration could turn to scorn. Friends who once envied my seemingly perfect life now led the charge in tearing it apart. It was a digital witch hunt. Each comment and share another stone thrown at my glass house of lies. Then came the knock that sealed my fate, the legal notice of asset seizure. My beautiful home, my car, even my personal belongings, were to be stripped away as part of the settlement. I was left with nothing but a modest apartment, a stark, unfurnished space that echoed with the ghosts of my past life. Isolation became my new normal. The vibrant social life I once led, the endless invitations and gatherings, all evaporated. I was a pariah, ostracized by the society that once held me on a pedestal. The silence of my new apartment was deafening, a constant reminder of the cost of my vengeance. In the midst of my desolation, she reached out, the mistress. Her plea for reconciliation was draped in claims of victimhood, as if she too had been wronged by the narrative. But I saw through her act. Her words were empty, a last-ditch effort to salvage her own reputation. My rejection was cold, final. There was no room for forgiveness, not for her. As for my husband, he became a ghost, his whereabouts a mystery that consumed the gossip columns. Rumors swirled, each more outlandish than the last, but none led to him. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the chaos he helped create. Then came the leak, an anonymous tip to the press painting me as the architect of a grand conspiracy. It was ludicrous, yet in the absence of truth, fiction flourished. My name was dragged through the mud once more, a narrative crafted without my input, sealing my infamy. But amidst the noise, a glimmer of truth emerged. Cryptic messages began to find their way to me, each one a piece of the puzzle that was my husband's true nature. The man I thought I knew, the one I vowed to spend my life with, was a stranger. His dealings, once hidden in the shadows, began to come to light, revealing a web of deceit far more complex than I had imagined. Each revelation was a knife, cutting away the remnants of the life I thought we shared. I was left questioning everything: the foundation of our marriage, the man I loved, and the choices that led me to this point. The unraveling of these mysteries was not a path to redemption but a further descent into the abyss. In the solitude of my new reality, I confronted the consequences of my actions. My quest for revenge, once a fire that fueled me, had consumed everything I held dear. The cost was not just my material possessions or social standing, but my inner peace, my sense of self. The social media fallout, the asset seizure, the isolation, all of it was a price I paid for a war one waged with vengeance as my ally. The mistress's plea, my husband's disappearance, the leak, all were but chapters in a saga that I had authored, yet no longer controlled. As I sifted through the cryptic clues of my husband's true dealings, I realized the enormity of the web I was entangled in. It was a stark reminder that the man I sought to punish through my schemes was far more cunning and dangerous than the one I had married. This chapter of my life, written in isolation and betrayal, was a testament to the folly of vengeance. The mysteries I unraveled only served to deepen the wounds, a cruel irony in a tale where I sought to be the author of my own justice, only to become the architect of my downfall. In the shadow of my former life, amidst the rubble of a world I once commanded, hope flickered like a candle in the wind, fueled by whispers of support from quarters I never expected. It was the kindness of strangers, those touched by the spectacle of my downfall, that offered a flicker of light in the pervasive darkness. They came with words of encouragement, small acts of generosity that felt monumental in my sea of desolation. Their support was a balm to the soul, a reminder that even in the darkest times, humanity can shine brightly. Amidst this unexpected support, a glimmer of hope emerged from the ashes of my defeat. I stumbled upon whispers of hidden assets, a secret stash my husband had cleverly concealed. It was a chance, however slim, for financial recovery, for a way out of the destitution that had become my constant companion. The hunt for these assets became my new purpose, a quest fraught with danger and uncertainty but driven by a desperate need to reclaim a semblance of the life I had lost. The chase led me down a rabbit hole of legal and moral complexities, each step forward fraught with the risk of stepping into one of the many traps my past actions had set. It was a game of cat and mouse, with me as the prey, navigating a labyrinth designed to ensnare me at every turn. Yet, with each careful step, I moved closer to the treasure I sought, driven by the sliver of hope that it represented. But hope, it seems, is a double-edged sword. My pursuit caught the attention of law enforcement, leading to a tense encounter that tested the limits of my resolve. There, under the scrutinizing gaze of the law, I stood on the precipice, my every action weighed and judged. It was a stark reminder of the precarious position I found myself in, a consequence of the path I had chosen to walk. Amidst this tumultuous journey, a revelation came to light that cast my husband's new venture in a damning blow. Unethical practices, the foundation upon which his success was built, offered me a moral high ground I had long abandoned. It was an opportunity, a chance to fight back not with vengeance but with justice, to expose the corruption that lay at the heart of his empire. Emboldened by this revelation, I crafted a new scheme, a covert strategy designed to undermine his illicit activities. Learning from the mistakes of my past, I aimed not for revenge but for justice, a distinction that had once eluded me. This plan, carefully orchestrated and executed with precision, was my chance to make amends, to fight back against the injustices that had been wrought. Yet, as with all things in this twisted saga, success was not guaranteed. My first attempt to implement this new scheme backfired spectacularly, a stark reminder of the complexities of battling an enemy who remained shrouded in shadows. It was a blow, not just to my plans but to the fragile hope that had begun to take root within me. The failure served as a bitter lesson, a testament to the difficulties of navigating a battlefield where the lines between friend and foe, right and wrong, were blurred beyond recognition. In this chapter of my life, I found myself walking a tightrope, balancing between the desire for redemption and the reality of my situation. Each step forward was a gamble, each plan a leap of faith in the face of overwhelming odds. Yet, despite the setbacks, the support of those few who believed in me, and the slim chance of uncovering the truth, propelled me forward. It was a journey not just of external battles but of internal reflection, a quest not only for justice but for redemption that seemed just out of reach. The day began with a foreboding whisper, a message slid under my door by hands unseen, chilling in its brevity: stop now, or face the consequences. It was a warning, stark and devoid of any signature, yet its origin was clear as day. My husband's benefactor, a shadowy figure pulling strings from the dark, had marked me. My heart raced, fear mingling with defiance, but reality's cold grasp began to tighten around me. It was a moment of reckoning, the first real acknowledgement of the peril my vendetta had courted. I found myself at a crossroads, the warning echoing in my mind, a grim reminder of the powerful forces aligned against me. The risk wasn't just to myself anymore, it was a maelstrom threatening to engulf everyone I had unwittingly dragged into my crusade. With a heavy heart, I chose to step back, to retreat into the shadows and reassess my strategy. It was a reluctant withdrawal, spurred not by cowardice but by the instinct to survive, to fight another day. In this period of enforced quietude, I delved deeper than ever before into the morass of my husband's dealings. What I uncovered was a web of corruption so pervasive, so entwined with the echelons of power, that it took my breath away. My husband's business wasn't just unethical, it was criminal, a pillar of a much larger edifice of corruption that reached into the highest corridors of influence. The realization was a gut punch, a visceral affirmation of the path I had chosen, despite the dangers it courted. Driven by a desperate need to act, to not let this revelation lie dormant, I made a decision that would alter the course of my battle. I turned to the public, to the power of the masses, leaking everything I had discovered about the corruption festering at the heart of my husband's empire. It was a plea for justice, a clarion call to those who still believed in right and wrong. The documents spread like wildfire, a beacon of truth in a world shrouded in deceit. But the backlash was immediate and ferocious. Threats poured in, dark and venomous, a tidal wave of hatred aimed at silencing me. It was a stark reminder of the influence my husband wielded, a force capable of warping reality to its will. The public, swayed by the machinations of his PR machine, turned against me, painting me as the villain in a narrative I had sought to expose. Cornered and vilified, I was left with nothing but a final, desperate gambit. I decided to risk everything on one last move, a plan to expose my husband's corruption in a way that could not be ignored or twisted by his influence. It was a complex operation, targeting a public event where the evidence would be laid bare for all to see, undeniable and damning. The day of execution arrived, a maelstrom of nerves and anticipation. Everything was in place, every contingency accounted for, or so I thought. As the operation unfolded, a sense of triumph began to swell within me, a belief that justice might finally prevail. But in the moment of my greatest hope, the unthinkable happened. Betrayal, sharp and unexpected, cut through my plans like a knife. An insider, someone I had trusted implicitly, turned against me, leading to my arrest in the midst of the operation. It was a stunning reversal, a blow that shattered my world into fragments of despair. As I sit in my cell, the weight of my choices bears down on me with suffocating force. Reflection and regret are my constant companions, haunting me with the question of what might have been had I chosen a different path. My story, once a tale of love and betrayal, has become a cautionary saga of revenge and its consuming flames. The path I embarked upon, driven by a thirst for vengeance, has led me here, to this moment of utter downfall. The cost of my vendetta, measured in lost love, shattered lives, and a future irrevocably altered, is a burden I will carry forever. In the silence of my cell, I confront the reality that my pursuit of justice, however well-intentioned, was marred by the same corruption I sought to expose.